The Leander Independent School District is one of the fastest growing districts in the state of Texas. Situated approximately 25 miles north of Austin, the district encompasses more than 200 square miles and educates more than 32,000 students across its 37 campuses. The district began its efforts to improve the quality of learning over 20 years ago. With the help of Myron Tribus and David Langford, they learned about the quality approach developed by Dr. W. Edwards Deming and adapted it into their school education setting. The results achieved over the last 2 decades have been remarkable. Not only has the district grown exponentially, but it continues to show dramatic gains from year to year, every year. This is their story. This is the Leander Way.
This journey of transformation began with a restless night's sleep in 1991. Truly, I couldn't sleep, and I turned on PBS hoping to get some nature show that would lull me to sleep. And instead, what I caught was the last few minutes of Quality or Else, and saw David Langford for the first time. And we had been working so hard to improve the current systems, and there was something about that 10-minute clip that said, this man's onto something. This man has knowledge that we need if we're truly going to make a difference in education. What are those things that no matter what, that's what we want to be about? And that's where we came up with the idea of build, think, and create. You build trust, you build relationships, you build ethical behavior, and that allows you, if you have that basis, to think about putting kids first in everything you do, thinking about continuous improvement, thinking about systems. And if you have that foundation, then in fact you can create joy in learning and working and excellence in everything we do.
Drawing upon the teachings of Dr. Deming, the district has maintained a relentless focus on building and sustaining trusting relationships among all stakeholders. This led to the creation of their first guiding document, the 10 Ethical Principles.
I think one of the things that we first took to heart was Deming's 14 points. Fear is something that is in all organizations, and it can truly be an obstacle to working together. And so if you look at point 8, it's drive out fear. In order to get to the culture that we have today, we had to look at how we interacted and how we built that trust so that people would speak out and tell us, and tell each other, more importantly, what was wrong, what was right, so that we can get better.
The ethical principles were developed by a very cross-functional group, staff members as well as people all across the community. What are those things across cultures that people's, if they in fact have cultures that survive and thrive, what are those things that are important to the cultures? And that's why the 10 ethical principles became a guiding document.
We made it part of the goal setting for our students, and we made it part of how we self-assess. So we self-assess academically. We also assess on how we treat each other.
Start running your meeting. How are you going to decide who goes up to the boards?
When the students are allowed to actively participate in their goal setting, in their inquiry, in their collaboration, they find a voice.
Hypertension is...
It all boils down to the relationship that you're willing to establish with them.
Most people in roles such as mine have gotten to where they are because they were solutions people. And this was not a place where my solutions were necessarily wanted, which was surprising to me. Now it was, can you lead a group? Can you pull an answer out of the group, rather than, hey, what's your solution to this problem? Very different approach to work.
We're willing to try new things. We're willing to discard what doesn't work, but we're willing to really embrace what does work. And the only way you know that is if those ideas are being shared. And that, I think, I see here more than I have seen in other districts with which I have worked. And just that notion of really collaboration across teachers, across classrooms, across campuses, inside the district and outside of the district.
Many school districts have the teachers, and oh, by the way, all these other people that do stuff. In this district, it was everybody.
In thinking students first, the district created two guiding documents, the Graduate Profile and the Learning Model. The Graduate Profile, which was first developed many years ago and recently revised, documents the desired attributes of graduates from the district. The Learning Model ensures a focus on student learning and provides a process-based framework for management and improvement across the district.
We brought in everybody to say, what does a graduate in Leander ISD need to look like? And from that evolved our new graduate profile. If our kids look like that when they exit our system, then we have done a tremendous job.
It is easy for people to see what you're doing as different isolated improvement efforts or different isolated staff development, professional development. And the learning model was a way to synthesize that information, to bring it together, and for them to say, this is how it relates, this is how it relates, this doesn't mean we're not doing this anymore, this means we're just building upon this piece.
At the center of everything we do is in our learning model is our focus on student learning. That's the whole reason that we exist.
What are the key critical classroom processes? There's 12 of them. And then the next ring really is talked about, well, what are the key campus processes and district processes that support the classroom? The last ring really has to do with our guiding documents.
The center of our learning model is not focused on teaching, focused on quality teaching. It's focused on student learning.
The district leaders also learned from Dr. Deming that they needed to view the district as a system because improvement in performance comes directly from improving systems and processes.
When I came to Leander ISD, the first thing that really struck me was that the district was being run as a system.
The paradigm that we had started with was more of, well, there's a problem, let's have a 2-hour meeting and fix it.
We needed to stop looking to blame people and look at how we can really focus on systems.
Knowing that it takes all the different pieces of the puzzle, and when you move one, you impact everybody.
And we're going to fully understand what the system is. We're going to fully understand where we want to end up. And then we're going to use tools together to figure out how to bridge the gap.
There's a little key over in the left-hand
We were taught not to look at using tools, but rather identifying what it was we needed to work on. So the focus was always on the work, not the tools. And people often get confused by that.
Some people said it was almost like they were sitting around waiting for permission to improve, that improvement was something that was not located within each person. We gave ourselves permission as a group to say, ask each other, how do you know? Ask each other, how can we make this better? Until it became a part of our normal dialogue.
We had on our board of trustees and in the community people who believed in the process, who thought it was a wonderful way for the school district to go, and people who really thought it was a bad thing.
We had a high school senior English teacher say one time, who, by the way, was one of those who said, "This too shall pass, and it can't pass soon enough for me." And she went to the conference, and for some reason, she went into, I believe it was a session that had third graders in there teaching the teachers what they were doing. And she came out of that saying, if third graders can do this, my seniors can. And she was off and running. But that was about 5 or 6 years down the road.
At that time, we also quit using the term quality in education. We changed that to the term continuous improvement, because who could argue with continually improving?
Our main goal was to make this happen in the classroom. and to see what difference that would make in the learning and how our students approach the learning. If you go within our schools, you will find some classrooms where the students are using the continuous improvement tools automatically. You will see them doing PDSAs to improve their learning. You will see charts on the wall that give an indication of where they are in the learning, where they are as a class. They have their portfolios that they can look at their own learning and see where they are, what do I need to do, where do I need to go from here. And then you will find classrooms that are more traditional, that haven't gotten there yet. We have a spectrum of that. It's a continuum. You continually look at what you're doing. You keep asking, how could we have done that better? Next year when we do this, what would make it a better learning experience, regardless of what it is you're doing? And you listen, and eventually it sinks in, and you listen enough to say, okay, we can do something about that.
We hear people talking about intrinsic motivation factors, allowing people to have autonomy over their own workplaces and to be able to make decisions. We see a high degree of cooperation.
I always feel very safe coming in here and saying, okay, I tried that. The answer is 5. What's the question? And I got a bunch of blanks.
That level of cooperation throughout the entire district encourages people to be more well motivated within what they do. People see a depth of meaning behind the work that they do here, and the work is challenging. And you start to put all of those factors together, you start to see a tremendous effort towards intrinsic motivation.
Being wrong is a great thing to celebrate. Knowing that that in fact we need to go in a different direction is very valuable, and I think that's something the culture now embraces.
If we can create an environment where our teachers take risks, then they can turn around and create an environment where the kids take risks. And if they don't take risks, they won't learn.
And I remember, I guess, an administrator looking at me and saying, where do you get these people? Because it was a very happy place, and people were enjoying themselves and learning and having a good time doing it. And I remember being taken aback by that question. And my answer was, I get them the same place you do. That we just, I guess, go about trying to work with each other in a different way than most people do.
We're not looking to blame individuals. If the problem appears to be with me, it's just that I'm close to the problem. It doesn't mean that I caused it. What is to look at the process. If you're not happy with the results, look at the process that led to that result.
Your campus improvement plan is going to be about processes. The learning model is going to help guide you and focus you on those processes versus just coming up with a performance goal. We're going to increase something by 10%. Well, by what means? How are you going to do that? What are the processes? Well, the learning model is going to help you. We're going to gather data of what the system is producing, and then we're going to come together and truly figure out what are steps to get us from our current reality, exactly where we are, to where we want to end up, that ideal. And then we'll constantly measure our progress.
This is a school district that looks at data in a variety of ways, by people, by performance, which certainly TACS is a part of that, our state assessment, but also process data and perceptual data. What really stood out to me were that those two data categories were also equally important to this organization. And so anywhere where we're not satisfied with data, we want to drill down deeper. Where the data was really good, we want to better understand that, so that's something we can continue to sustain.
We have some terrific results in the district. I'm loath to say that. And the reason I am, and the reason I would guess that as you talk to a lot of different folks that you haven't heard a lot about, look at our great successes, it's because we recognize that we're never going to get to the end of the road. That every time we get data and it looks great, then we're like, hey, that's super. Now, how are we going to increase that to the next level? How are we going to move that forward? If we get data and it looks crummy, we say, who do we need to get in the room to figure out how to make this better? And frankly, the data is what the data is. At the end of the day, here it comes rolling in. And so we're going to make improvements, whether that data is great or that data is crummy. We need to figure out how to improve.
The advice I would have for people is that you kind of have to get rooted in the philosophy and then be patient and persistent and keep pushing and pushing.
The hardest things are to keep going and to keep learning and to keep involving everyone in the process that you possibly can.
We have gotten to a place where we have lots of systems and processes in place that support high levels of student achievement, but we have so far to go.
My vision for Leander ISD is that students exit our system with the same passion for and joy in learning they had when they entered our system, without economics determining their success.
This gave me the tools, the strategies, the philosophy to realize that we're about truly empowering students for the future, for greatness, and it's just made a world of difference, just a world of difference.